Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Budget and Finance Committee meeting for Thursday, February the 16th. First item on the agenda is call to order, and I will do a roll call vote in order to do that. Alderman Peterson, how do you vote?
I'm here.
Alderman Baggett?
Present.
Alderman Potts? Alderman Potts seems to be missing. I don't see him next to me.
That's right.
And the chair votes, the chair is present also. So the next item on the agenda would be new business, budget presentation, finance and admin. Eric, do you want to start that out?
Well, I'll hand it off to Christine and her team. She oversees our finance and administration team as part of her role as assistant city administrator and CFO. And so we'll do just like we did last time, where folks come up and share about their departments and their budget requests for the coming year.
Thank you. I'm very proud to support the departments and offices that we informally refer to as support services. We do serve external customers of the city. So many of our external customers may not realize that our departments do serve them. We prepare and collect 27,000 utility bills every month. We also pay all the bills of the city out of support services. But we also serve all of the internal customers, which are the departments of the city, to help them do what they do best. So the folks we're going to have represent our departments today are the folks that I work with on a daily basis, and I'm glad that you'll have the opportunity, if you haven't had a chance to do so in the past, to meet them and to hear about their departments as well as their budget requests for fiscal year 24. And I know they will be happy to answer questions you may have about what we do. And we'll be starting with our finance department. And these are no strangers to this committee, but because they are with us every month and do a wonderful job in this fashion of providing financial reporting. We have Michael O., our comptroller, and Margaret Wilson, our financial manager. And also Michael Walters Young plays two hats. He is our budget innovation manager, and he is a leader in our finance department.
And I will take point to start the finance department. Simply put, your money is our job. Finance department oversees the security and management of the city's financial interests. We assist the city administrator prepare, implement, and monitor the most important policy decision and policy document you prepare on an annual basis and vote on, and that is what you're doing right now, the city's annual operating and capital budgets. We also plan and execute the issuance of short-term and long-term borrowing for the city, both our general obligation pledges as well as our revenue credits or the water management pledges. We do this by executing at least 8, but we can put sort of 8 buckets of services that we provide for the city. We account and report the city's money. We perform budgeting and analytics. We invest temporarily idle funds. We maintain and reconcile all the city's bank accounts. We issue payroll. We pay vendors. When needed, we do internal audits. And we ensure that the annual external financial audit is conducted on a timely basis and presented to you always at the first meeting in December, last meeting in November, last one of your calendar year. The organizational chart of the finance department is on screen and on your tablets. We have 3 divisions. We have budgeting and analytics on the left. That is my purview. I have one direct report as well as sort of day-to-day operational management and support of the city's management fellow with the city administrator. The next block is sort of in the middle there, the comptroller, 2 of our analysts, and our part-time financial manager. That is the accounting division. That's where the reconciliations happen and investments, grant management, et cetera. And then the third component is our processing division, if you will, and that's Margaret's area, where payroll is fixed assets as well as our AP specialist. With that, Margaret will tell you about how much money we would like in the upcoming year.
Good afternoon. We are actually asking for slightly less than last year for multiple reasons. One, of course, with personnel is medical premiums and retirement benefit costs assumed is a slight increase. But for operations, overall, we have a decrease. One, we have no scheduled equipment replacement. And two, last year, y'all were gracious enough to give us money to get a new payroll software, which we are in the process of implementing, training on, with UKG. So we will not have that. The ongoing cost of that will end up in IT, which Brandy and I have been working closely together, but we just don't have the initial cost. So we hope to have that up and running. Estimated is April 1st. My guess is June or July 1st, but it'll be at the end of one of the next 2 quarters. And then we do have a slight increase on financial fees and investment due to have those contracts are out for bid for our financial investor and our investment advisor. We do have 2 program enhancement requests this year. I will cover the first, and then Mike Lowe will cover the second. The first is an AP automation. With everybody being in different buildings, different departments, and trying to modernize how we make sure all the bills are paid timely. We're looking at an AP automation that would bring the invoices in, go ahead and pre-code them, and then send them out for review and approval, and then they would come back all within the same system. So less paper floating around, less likelihood of something getting lost in somebody's email, items like that. We do have one internal program we're looking at with IT right now that will also hopefully work with this, but we're still learning that program.
Good afternoon. The second enhancement request deals with a particular person at the table, and it just happens to be me. I have discussed about retiring at the end of 2024, and I've been talking with Eric and Christine about what might be the best way for a transition. And we've talked to possibly up to a year overfilling the comptroller position, and that would be kind of the last 6 months of this fiscal year, the first 6 months of the next fiscal year. And what that would give the person is that would let them see the audit process from beginning right after the end of an audit all the way to the end of an audit and actually see the report. So that's what we were thinking. It's probably longer than some overfills have been, but we just thought that that would give the opportunity for that person to actually see it from beginning to end. And kind of what we're thinking is about a 2-year plan is this calendar year. I've been working with the staff, showing them kind of some of the things they need to know. And then that second year, I'd be able to work with the overfilled comptroller. So that's what we're thinking with this enhancement request. And I think that is all we have from the finance department. The last slide.
I want to chime in on this
Oh,
one
yes,
in
I'm so
particular,
sorry.
just if I can. It is a little bit unusual. The board has granted the administrator, city administrator, some authority to overfill where we need it. This would be longer than usual, but it's a pretty unusual position in terms of how much it touches different aspects of what we do overall in operations, obviously our financial components. And having that full year really brings a lot of benefit because there's a whole cycle and seeing and understanding that. And Mike's done this over 20 years here for the city, and kind of that unique institutional knowledge, that understanding of how these pieces fit together, having the benefit of that full year, I think could really help us. It's a bigger investment to do it, but I think it can serve us really well. Unless, of course, if you don't approve this, he has to stay. In which case, I know what I'll recommend in the budget, so we'll see how that goes. But I do have the mental image of Mike trying to leave City Hall and Christine and I on each leg, like trying to hold him back. But we are appreciative of his service and dedication and the professional qualities he's brought to this job. And the awards you're going to see on the next slide speak to that. But I think this is a unique circumstance that warrants this additional investment in the overfill to make sure this transition is as smooth as it possibly can be.
So when would you expect to hire that person?
I would expect we'd be hiring them at the end of this calendar year leading into next year. So we might start that process at the end part of this year and have that person in place. I'd like to have them in place by January so they see everything all the way through, including the process we're in right now.
So the dollar amount on the screen is a 6-month dollar amount, assuming a full salary and benefits.
And on this slide, the finance department, we try to do the best job we can. And if you'll notice, like Eric just mentioned, 31 consecutive years of getting the GFOA Certificate of Achievement on Reporting, 14 years, Michael and his team, this Distinguished Budget Award, and what we always strive for each year, including in the transition, no audit findings.
Any questions or comments?
Very good.
Then let's go to, that's all. Brian, I guess you're up.
Mr. Chair, as our purchasing team is getting settled, may I introduce,
Yes, you may.
we are certainly honored to have, we have 4 full-time professionals in our purchasing office, and we have 3 of those 4 folks with us this afternoon, and Brian Wilcox, our manager, and we have Leslie Pewitt and Suzanne.
Good afternoon, committee. Thank you for your time. My name is Brian Wilcox, Purchasing Manager for the city. And as Christine mentioned, Leslie Pewitt and Suzanne Ward are joining me here at the table also of the purchasing office. The focus of our department is to focus on the portion of purchasing that is not related to new construction. We leave it to the engineering department to facilitate the purchasing process related to new construction of new facilities, so vertical construction, and new infrastructure, horizontal infrastructure. Our department considers its mission to support the city's end user departments, to strive for the city to receive maximum value for each purchase, and to strive to preserve and enhance the public trust. The National Institute of Governmental Purchasing, as it used to be known, NIGP, now known as the Institute for Public Procurement, has embarked on the development of public procurement principles and practices represented by the 4P logo to the right on the slide. NIGP has identified 3 pillars by which 6 values of public procurement should be directed. Those 3 pillars are public trust, public service, and justice. The values, in alphabetical order, are accountability, ethics, impartiality, professionalism, service, and transparency. 10 years ago, the Board of Mayor and Aldermen adopted by resolution these values and guiding principles. And we have those 6 values framed and in the hallway in our office. So we try to think about them every day. The next few slides I'm just going to touch on. They are meant to help you understand how purchasing supports the other departments. So first, we help them in the areas of vehicles and off-road equipment, technology, professional consulting and other services, facility and field equipment, and supplies. In addition, we promote and maintain open lines of communication with designated representatives of each department. We identify, describe, and promote the use of best purchasing practices to be followed by city departments. And we represent the city at area vendor outreach events, functioning as a centralized point of contact for suppliers, service providers, and contractors that seek to do business with the city. An example would be vendors who are maybe small businesses just getting started, perhaps. Could be minority-owned or women-owned businesses that are interested in doing business with the public sector. In the field of public procurement, we work hard to stay abreast of new laws and evolving best practices. pursuing professional development and promoting and supporting the profession. In fact, today, we attended a chapter meeting of the Middle Tennessee chapter of NIGP. And it is important to me, and I'm sure it's important to upper management and to our elected officials that our city be represented at these kinds of chapter professional development events so that we are seen as progressive and intent on staying abreast with current trends in the field. The next slide presents data relating to our purchasing card program, which is administered by the purchasing office. This is the program by which the city issues bank cards, credit cards to our employees who have a need for them, not to every employee, but on an as-needed basis. And you see some numbers related to that. The first chart relates to the value of the purchases in aggregate and the value of the rebate that the city earns off of the use of the bank card. And the second chart on that page presents the number of transactions and the number of cardholders. It's fairly stable over time. I think it's kind of interesting to see yet another example of how the COVID pandemic probably is the reason for a little bit of an ebb and flow in that chart. An unintended consequence of the pandemic. On the next page, we have a couple of charts relating to the city's fleet fuel program, which is administered in part by the purchasing office and in part by the city's fleet department or fleet division of the street department. And the first chart presents the number of gallons of diesel fuel and gasoline that have been purchased each year for the city fleet. And the second chart refers to the number of vehicles and equipment and the number of drivers who are given permission to make purchases for the city fleet. This is separate from the purchasing card program.
So Brian,
Yes.
would we be looking correctly at 600, am I looking right, 600 drivers, say for 2020?
Yes, and that number of drivers has grown each year, the last 3 years, 613 in calendar year 2020, 638 in calendar 21, and the last calendar year 22, 677.
77, okay.
Thank you for asking. And then finally, purchasing supports other departments by administering the disposal of the city's surplus personal and seized property. We rely heavily on, for vehicles and equipment, on the fleet department to assist us with the disposal of that property, and on the police department for the disposal of the seized property. But in all cases, whether it's city personal property or seized property, it's auctioned through an electronic website, and we put everything that has, even if we don't think it has much value, we put it all on the website. We're not, I hope it's not crushing to you to hear me say that I, for one, am not particularly interested in how much we get from each sale. I'm much more interested in it being fair and transparent and arm's length. I don't want any concern about an employee taking home surplus property or anything like that. We don't permit that. We're very careful about that. All surplus property is disposed of by this third-party electronic auction. So the first chart refers to the number of auctions and the net proceeds from that. And the ebbs and flows there, I think, are less about the pandemic and more just about the fluctuations from year to year. It is easy to throw the numbers off by the sale of a garbage truck that has some good life left in it. or a fire truck. So I wouldn't dwell too much on how the numbers fluctuate from one year to the next.
So don't get excited.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. And then the second chart actually is unrelated to seized surplus property. Sorry for misspeaking. This chart has to do with the number of requisitions that our department processes each year. And you can see that it is in the 300 per year range currently. Next, our complicated organization chart. Shall I pause so that you can study that, or? Okay. I make the same joke every year and appreciate
Works every year, right?
you chuckling. Our base budget is quite stable from current fiscal year to what we're requesting for the new fiscal year. The finance department has inserted some explanation about increases in the personnel section having to do with medical premiums and retirement benefits. And in the operations section, there is a new copy machine for a replacement copier in the current fiscal year budget that we will be buying before June 30. And then next year, there's some new computer hardware to replace existing, and those kind of offset each other. In addition, we had in this year's budget purchase of a software package that we won't have to won't be spending again each year. The maintenance of that software package will transfer over to the IT department, as is the city's practice.
And you'll notice, excuse me, you'll notice again in this budget, like you're going to see a lot today, because a lot of these budgets are also ones similar to ones in the government and management program area. They have interfund transfers, and they're partially subsidized by the water management, sanitation, and stormwater funds. So that's why, again, the operations budget is a negative every year because of that transfer. Yes, they actually do buy Post-it notes and pens and replace copiers, but that's why that negative appears here and will in several other budgets this afternoon.
Thank you, Michael. So I'm going to turn now to our enhancement requests. We have three that we're proposing. The first, in order of our sense of priority, is we'd like to replace the deadbolt lock on the front door for the purchasing office. Our office is located right across the corridor here from this room, the boardroom, and we'd like to replace that deadbolt with an electronic badge read lock that would permit the possibility of upper management being able to access the purchasing office after hours, or might permit the possibility of needing a badge to enter the office even during City Hall business hours. We don't have a lot of walk-in traffic except for the occasional person needing directions. And we're always glad to help with directions, but in this day and age, it seems prudent to consider having more flexibility with that. This enhancement request is limited to just that one door that is at the front of the purchasing office. Our second enhancement request is also related to access control, but this is out in the field. We have a couple of dozen remote diesel fuel sites where we have generators or other machinery that needs, where it's stationary and you can't take it to the filling station to refill for when the diesel fuel runs low. And so we have a truck deliver the fuel to each of these sites, and it would facilitate the delivery process and be convenient for our own staff if we could replace the locks that are both for the sites and for the hardware itself with an electronic lock that, where the truck driver could be given temporary access to each site and to each tank on an as-needed basis. Our third enhancement request has to do with training. We are proposing, this is a new idea for us, we are proposing to facilitate, organize, plan a group training for members of other departments on the subject of procurement. As I like to say, when anyone asks, which isn't very often, purchasing is a team sport, and we depend heavily on the departments to help us with the purchasing function. Their ability to help is based in part on good training, and we think that it might be prudent for us to be a little more formal about offering training from an outside expert to come in and facilitate that. We do provide training here within our organization from our own office, but this would be raising the bar a little bit. So, our summary slide, I mentioned how procurement is a team sport. You kindly tolerated the mayor reading the proclamation at the end of January for naming March as Procurement Month. And I want to quote from one of the meat of that proclamation, if I may. It reads, whereas the procurement function for the city of Franklin is a team effort and its success depends upon the efforts, support, and cooperation of the city's elected officials and appointed officials, department heads, departmental purchasing agents, staff of the city's engineering, facilities, fleet, law, and purchasing departments, and the Tennessee Department of General Services Central Procurement Office, and the community of suppliers, service providers, and contractors that seek to do business with the city. So without all of them and us working together with a common vision, the purchasing function wouldn't work, and I want to recognize them. Finally, I want to pay special thanks to my colleagues, Suzanne and Leslie, for their assistance in preparing for today. I depend on them to help me get the numbers ready and the slides ready, and I want them to know I appreciate them. That's all we have. Thank you very much.
Any questions of Brian, or Leslie, or Suzanne? All right.
I did have one quick question. I saw such a big jump in the number of vehicles and machinery that we have. And another analysis I did in my mind was the amount of gasoline or diesel fuel that we're using didn't seem proportionate, but mainly about the number of vehicles, how they've jumped so much, over 100 and something.
I'll be glad to look into that, Mayor. I don't know off the top of my head why there might have been a fluctuation from one year to the next. I do know this. We work hard to work with the fleet department to make certain that each vehicle for which each part of the city fleet for which we purchase fuel has its own vehicle card. What that chart, it talks about vehicles, but what it's really measuring is the number of vehicle cards that are issued for the purchase of fleet fuel, so that we can identify the exact exact vehicle or piece of equipment for which the fuel is being purchased. So it might be that the answer in part is that we're just being a little more precise about having each vehicle or piece of equipment have its own card.
I can tell you for sure we did not add 100-plus vehicles last year. And I was looking at that same note. I actually mentioned something to Christine while we were talking about that, because that caught my eye too. And it does say vehicle and cards. So I think that card piece may be part of it. But we'll get you a little more of an answer in terms of how that breaks down between cards and vehicles. And we certainly didn't add that many vehicles. In fact, we've struggled to get the vehicles we want because of the delays that we've had with some of the replacements and other pieces. But we'll get you an answer on that.
Well, would more than one driver be fueling one vehicle?
Yes.
Okay.
And each driver is identified in the fleet purchasing system by a PIN, a personal identification number. And each vehicle is also identified by a card, a piece of plastic that is read at the pump.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you. Christine, do you want to introduce our next presenter?
Be very happy to. Our next department is our Revenue and Licensing and City Court Clerk, Jessica Davy, representing these two areas. And I believe this is now your third budget process with us?
That sounds right.
She's becoming a pro. So
Third time's a charm. All right, well, thank you, Christine, and thank you, everyone, for your time this afternoon. So we'll start with revenue management first. So you can see the purpose of the department up there on the slide, but just to summarize, we bill and collect all of the city's utilities and various and sundry taxes, and we process numerous licenses and permits for our citizens, our businesses, and our organizations. And as part of our efforts to deliver top-notch customer service, I would like to highlight that we rolled out a call center upgrade last year. And one of the ways that we can use this system is to evaluate our call data reports to gain insight into the service that we provide. And as you can see on the slide, from February of last year, which is when we went live with the system, through December, our team handled 33,528 calls, with an average call time of 2 minutes and 14 seconds and an average hold time of only 11 seconds. We felt pretty good about that.
You need to work for AT&T.
Think I could help them out a little bit?
Yeah, anybody could help
It wouldn't be
them.
me. It would be our team down the hall. They do a great job. Moving on, you can see our org chart there. We're not changing anything to it this year. On the far left is my accounting officer. She reports directly to me, and she's a big part in helping me prepare this budget. So just want to recognize that. And of course, she does all the reconciliations for us. Then we have 3 billing technicians that are responsible for getting out those close to 30,000 utility bills on time and accurate every month. And then directly beneath me there, you'll see the customer service supervisor, who is Miss Tabitha Byron, who's hiding over here in the back. But I would like to recognize her because she oversees 2 divisions in our office, the customer service team that took all those phone calls and processes all of those payments, and then our financial techs that we call them the banking and business department. They get the money to the bank on time and properly, and then they handle all of the business interactions.
Do you think she needs to be up here then?
I told her she wouldn't have to do that. but
Okay,
if you
all
really
right.
wanted to. I did want to recognize her though, because she does play an important part in keeping the office running, and while we're able to do such a good job. So, okay, so moving on to our base budget, we are fully staffed, and we're not requesting any changes to personnel. And you can see some increase in our operational costs in the machinery and equipment fund due to several computers in our department that are scheduled for replacement this year, and we have several monitors that are in need of replacing as well. So we're going to get all of that updated for our team.
I will say, we broke out this one in particular for you because it's such a large offset. All other departments except revenue management, when it comes to interfund transfers, have 20% of the gross departmental budget assessed. This one is between 75 and 90%. And we look at literally position by position because the vast majority of what they do is to handle the billing for those 3 departments of water management, sanitation, and stormwater. So the amount of offset here is larger than any other department as a percentage. FYI.
Thank you, Michael. And then just to summarize, I will say that the revenue management team is very excited about implementing a new bill printing system in the coming months. You may recall that I came to you last year and presented the selection committee's choice of provider, InfoSend. The program that they offer is modern and efficient, and I believe that it will help us in our efforts to provide our customers with exceptional service. So we want to be innovative, and we want to be up to date on the way we do things, and so we're looking forward to that. So, any questions about revenue management before I move on? Yep.
Any questions?
Okay. Continue.
Continue.
All right, so I'm going to change gears to city court now. So I also serve as the city court clerk for the city of Franklin, and you can see our mission and vision statement there on your slide. And I'll just say that I wholeheartedly believe that every part of this statement is important, but if I had to highlight one thing for me, it would be our mission to promote public confidence in the court system as one of the most important roles that we play. And I say that because for so many people, city court may be their only interaction with our justice system. Most of them hope that that's as far as they ever have to go. But I think that presents a huge opportunity for us. And because we have a great team in city court, they like to refer to themselves as small but mighty. That they're full of competent and professional people. They really get to show the customers, we'll call them customers, not defendants, that the court system is fair and efficient. And then part of this team includes our city judge, which, as you know, we welcomed a new judge this year, the Honorable Jessica Bourne, and it's been a great experience. She's been a great addition to city court, and she supported us in all of our efforts. Then our org chart is almost as simple as purchasing. I have my chief deputy, Natalie Keene, who's not here, so I want to get to embarrass her, but she also plays a big part in this budget for me every year and in keeping the office running and court docket days, helping them run smoothly. And then I have another full-time deputy and a part-time assistant deputy. And so they work really hard for our citizens and do a great job. And we're not requesting any changes to that. And we, like I said, we're fully staffed, and we're not requesting any changes to personnel. And then there's a slight decrease in our budget this year because we are having fewer computer replacements that are needed for FY24. And while I'm not requesting any program enhancement requests for this year, we did have a large request last year that was approved, and we would like to carry that over to FY24 because we're unsure that we're going to be able to purchase the new court reporting software before the end of the current fiscal year. So moving over to the last slide, in summary, I will say, related to that we are still working very hard and very diligently to upgrade our technology in court. We do have a search committee that is looking for new court reporting software that I just mentioned. And there's a lot of things we hope to improve with new technology. I would say a primary goal of that is to offer online citation payment for our defendants. So with our small but mighty staff and our new judge, we're going to keep working hard and keep looking for ways to improve.
Do you track the number of citations?
We do, and that's in my packet somewhere that I don't have printed, but Michael might have handy for me. Thank you. So yes, we have the total cases for calendar year 2022 is 3,886, and then we were able to break them down by moving violations, financial responsibility, which is the insurance violations. We also have the city's code violations come, so those are not traffic at all. Parking citations, all of that is broken out into in the packet.
Any other questions?
One thing I was curious about is the revenue from our city court side. Is that broken out in the packet?
It actually is not in your packet. It was presented last month in the revenue model. It's a separate page.
Okay.
We can certainly follow.
I'll go back and look.
Okay, yeah. There are sort of our top 10 categories of revenues. City court, municipal court, fines and fees is one of them. It's
More or less than
More-
200 or 300,000, which just seems to be an average kind of budget.
yes, it's around the amount. Court revenues we've been working to catch up with court revenues over time. There's been a decline over the years, and so we've worked to lower those revenue estimates to get them to a point where it's more predictable and sustainable. I want to say in the $300,000
Yeah.
range.
Our actuals for fiscal '22 was just under 400,000 for all court fines and fees. Our budget was only 282, and our medium forecast for this is around 378, 379. That actual is pretty high in '22 compared to the prior year, which is only 304. So I think we're probably splitting the difference a little bit, that it may not be quite as significant, and that is, this is everything. This is everything in your court fines and fees.
I think the core of that question was centered is, we're not making a bunch of money off of
Oh.
these.
No.
Not-
And I think citizens probably
Yeah.
would like to know that we're not making a lot of, money off this process, into we are charging an adequate court fee to cover our costs, which it seems like we are. So that's all I need.
And we actually break out city court in our audited report. Fiscal '22 fines for city court were $158,514, and then parking fines were $55,000. So we also have separate line for general sessions circuit court, which is not city court. So we're more like just barely over 200,000 in city court and parking fines together.
And if memory serves, that total of 400,000 that Eric mentioned, it's about 0.3 to 0.4% of the total general fund. 0.3 or 0.4%.
So Christine.
Just to
Yeah.
put that in
Yeah,
context.
sometimes you hear that, are we funding operations through fines, et cetera? We're not.
Correct.
We're actually,
Exactly.
it's helping cover a portion of the cost to operate this component.
And isn't the amount of fine defined by the state?
Yeah, and we're
The
capped
state.
by how much the
It's
fine can be and the
50.
court costs, right?
Right, the fine, it can be $50, that's it. And the court cost is, it's enough to cover, to keep us, but a lot of that goes to the state. So we're only keeping a small portion of the total amount that a defendant pays on court costs.
So what is a parking ticket? How much?
The first one is $21.
$21?
That's
And
after you've received
That's
warnings.
after you've received a warning.
Yeah.
And then it's 51.
Goes up to 50.
Does
yeah.
it jump up to 51, or is there a middle ground? I think it's 51. If I'm saying it wrong, Natalie's across the hall.
So if I
shaking
back,
her
It tops out at
It
that
tops
50
out at
number.
51.
Yeah.
The-
so if I back into the parking place out in the garage, it's 21.
Well, you'll probably get a warning first before
Okay.
you get the ticket,
And then it'll
most
be,
likely.
then it'll be $21.
Yeah.
And then it'll be 51 every time you do it after
So how do I
that.
stop it at a warning?
Don't do it again.
Don't do it again. Learn your lesson.
All right,
Okay.
good, good, yes.
Next, we will have Brandy Arnett, the Assistant Director of our IT Department. And Brandy is a good example of what can happen on, you may come to work and you don't realize what your day is going to entail. Jason Potts, our IT Director, is feeling under the weather, and we're so gracious. Brandy learned, I guess, late morning that we were asking her to represent her department. So she is a veteran of the IT department in the city of Franklin, and we are very proud of the work that she does and the team that she leads. So we're glad to have her with us, and she will do a wonderful job walking through the IT department and its budget request.
Well, thank you. Like Christine said, I'm Brandy Arnett. It's my pleasure to be here with you guys today. And I wanted to start with the purpose of our department. I'll summarize it by saying the purpose of the IT department is professional and prompt service to our community by strengthening the City of Franklin's technology infrastructure and delivering innovative solutions that meet our city's needs and goals. Our department is currently made up of 26 people, and we're divided into 2 different divisions. Our divisions work together to provide technical support for 24/7 to 772 employees. Our day-to-day work is managed using a ticketing system. Will you swap to that? Which is measured on this slide. So for 2022, our customer support team dispatched a total of 4,702 tickets. These tickets include requests for assistance for anything from account lockouts to non-responsive systems. The next 2 slides are a number of devices and applications that we support. And for sake of time, I'm not going to go through each one, but to summarize, it's a total of 5,318 devices and systems that we support, which are distributed amongst 35 city facilities, 3 radio towers, and 130 intersections, all connected by 80 miles of fiber. We also work very closely with departments in working groups to learn business processes to provide technical solutions to make their jobs more efficient.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yeah.
There's 1,200 wireless phones.
Yes.
This seems like, that just is a striking number with 700 employees, but
That's not, that would be desk phones.
oh, like
Yeah,
phone, like,
desk phones.
okay. I just saw the wireless at the top and thought,
Yes.
anyway, no,
That's
that
desk
makes more
phones,
sense.
and then the cell phones is 395.
Oh, there's another, okay, see, I should just read.
That's
Thank
okay.
you.
And that's because the technology that we use for our phone system,
Mm-hmm.
that it's not the same landlines that we think of, that we used to have at home.
Yeah,
Even though it's on your desktop, it's VoIP,
it'll go with.
voice over IP technology.
No, you're fine. The org chart is the next slide, and I just wanted to show it briefly. It breaks down the 2 divisions. The applications division includes the customer support team, information systems, our GIS division. We have a database administrator and an IS developer. And that section reports to me. And then we have on the other division is the infrastructure, and it's the network team, communications team, and our data center team. Any questions about that? We can move to our base budget. For the base budget with the personnel, you'll see the same increase you've seen with the other departments, or 69,078 for increase. Operations, we have an increase of 13%. This is due primarily to the software maintenance moving over to our budget from other departments. So after the implementation, the first year, then the annual maintenance is moved over to IT for us to continue that contract. With capital, we have an increase of 195,000, 92.9%, and I know that looks like a lot. This is a continuation of a program enhancement request from last year, and it's for replacement of network hubs and cybersecurity. And then, if there's no questions there, we'll move to our program enhancement request, and Christine's going to kick that off.
Thank you, Brandy, and I think Eric and I will touch on this together. In fact, before we get started, perhaps Michael will be kind enough to go back to the slide that had the org chart on it, because that might help a little bit to see this visually. You may or may not recall that we used to have 2 assistant directors in the IT department. We had the position which Brandy is currently serving in as the assistant IT director over applications, but we also had an assistant director over infrastructure. And Jason Potts, currently our director, served in that role for several years. And certainly within the IT profession, folks have their specialties and they kind of rise and develop within their areas of training and expertise. And while this is one whole department, and this is probably the most integrated this department has been in a long, long time, they do have these divisions based on the expertise and the nature of their work. And when Jason Potts became our IT director, we did go without an assistant director. We did assess what the needs were at that time. Certainly, that was Jason's background. It was in running the day-to-day of the infrastructure team, and so we have been doing that for the last 3 years or so. But the request this year is to look at whether a couple different scenarios. One scenario would be actually to do not add a position, but do a reclassification to create an assistant director of infrastructure from within our existing. While there'd be a little bit of additional funds needed, it wouldn't be a whole new position benefit package. There's also an option for a new position, what would be an assistant director of infrastructure, and certainly that would allow the IT director to really be able to serve as the IT director in the administrative capacity, work on, for example, be able to do more in the profession, work on the city's relationship with the county, the other cities in which we do lots of work. For example, on the radio system as intergovernmental. We have a lot of intergovernmental initiatives, things that he would be able to devote more time to, whereas right now he spends quite a bit of his time leading that infrastructure team. So maybe Eric can.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add. Christine covered it really well, but those first two items are two different options to get to the same place. Reestablishing that assistant director position over that infrastructure component, and that will allow Jason to be more fully the director and focus on those responsibilities, and have individual in our team more directly focused on the infrastructure component and those needs. And we can get there either by a reorganization that reclassifies an existing position, which is the least expensive approach, but we're looking at the staffing and other needs, and really when we went through this and talked through this with Jason and Brandy, the thought was, let's put both options on the table so we understand the cost and organizational implications, and look at what might be the best fit for us. So this really lays out those two options for you. I think it makes a lot of sense. We continue to at least establish an assistant in some way, because the IT needs of our organization continue to grow. Everything we do has IT running in the background, whether that's the equipment or the application area, which Brandy helps lead. And so we've got to make sure we've got the right focus, both for what our needs are now and what we need to be planning for in the future. And having that dedicated leadership in that infrastructure component, along with what Brandy's doing on applications, seems to make a lot of sense. So I think that's why it's been brought forward.
And I'll just conclude also in my role in supporting certainly the 24/7 nature, and I know our departments who run 24/7 with these two leadership positions we have now, they are constantly in contact during weekends and evenings. Certainly they're stretched pretty thin because of that 24/7 nature, and especially at that leadership level, that's who we certainly reach out to when there's anything from radio system questions to something happens on the application side. And Jason and Brandy are those people, and they do that work with a smile. But we also would like to look at that long term by adding a third leadership position. So we didn't want Brandy to have to speak to this herself, but she has served in a valiant role as an assistant director here for a couple of years now, I believe. So we'll let her speak to the rest of the program enhancements.
Thank you. So the third program enhancement would be an additional position on my team. It's for IS Developer 1. So in 2021, we created a position for a IS developer. And this position works closely with the departments to develop in-house custom solutions by using on-premise data and APIs from vendors. By adding an additional person, this role will allow IT team to provide more customization for software that will benefit all departments and help with the workload currently carried by one developer. So that's what the third program enhancement request is. And the fourth one and the last one is a request to add camera replacements to our operating budget. The city currently has over 260 different fixed cameras throughout the community, and currently there is no established replacement budget for these cameras. Given they have a 3 to 5 year life cycle, establishing a replacement budget will allow us to replace a quarter to a third of all the cameras annually. So we're asking for that to be put in our operating budget.
And I'll add, this is an issue that somehow I stumbled upon earlier this fiscal year. You know, 260 different cameras. It's certainly traffic cameras that have the 360-degree views, and you see them and played in various areas. But then we also have a series of sort of more stationary cameras, security cameras, and facilities and locations. The ability to replace these, of course, would be dependent upon which ones need to be replaced first or get the most use. Obviously, the bigger the camera, the more it rotates, you know, the more expensive it is. But yeah, we feel pretty confident that we can start to add this amount of money and replace it, and it's just a prudent thing to do.
So you've got a 3 to 5 year life cycle on,
Depending upon the type of camera and depending upon where it is and weather exposure and use,
so
et
they're
cetera.
hooked up to where somebody can sit and look at each of the intersections and does IT adjust the lights or whatever it is to sort of make it a little bit easier to get
So a lot
through?
of, there's lots of different types of them, some pan, some are fixed. So it just depends on what camera we're talking about as to what we do. But what we would do is, it's kind of like we do with the computer replacement cycle now. We know, depending on the age of the computers, what year they're going to be replaced, and we would put the cameras on the same type of cycle, so that we're replacing them every 3 to 5 years.
Any questions? Well, look at here.
I was going to say we tried to avoid the confusion by having two Jasons today, and they weren't even here.
It's like one of you can't come, so,
Yeah.
When I did my RSVP for 4 o'clock, I was hoping for Jason.
Well, I'm so sorry to disappoint. Well, thank you, guys.
Well, our final presenter in support services, and Alderman Potts, you will have not missed the entertainment, certainly because our facilities manager, Brad Wilson, always presents a charming presentation as he.
The wind is blowing, the birds are screeching, and it's in City Hall somewhere. So
Five-star rating.
that's it exactly.
But I would give a little bit of introduction that Brad and his team do support city facilities. In whole, they are always out in the field. You do see them quite often, of course, here in City Hall because of the imminent needs, but they are out in, all over the city serving and assisting. I gave a little bit of preview in last week's meeting, Brad, that when our Fire Chief, Chief Johnson was speaking, that we have some, you're going to be speaking about fire halls a little bit this afternoon. So, but we are proud of the work that this team provides, and they are supportive in all weather and all times of year, and And certainly, a lot of the times, it can be very, not the best times to be out, and they take good care of us. So Brad Wilson is here to present the requests and the budget for the Facilities Department.
Thank you, Christine. Alderman, nice to see y'all. And just, I was looking at, for the document, facilities, with the staff that we have of about 4, we maintain about 850,000 square feet is what we handle, not including parks. And, but I think that's probably the only department that we don't really, we help Lisa and her team whenever we're asked. But, and then wastewater treatment plant, we're now doing a little bit with them, with Shell, and with the folks out there at the water department. So, just real quick, because I'm the last, thank God. But facilities management mission is consistently deliver the effective programs and efficient facility services based on sustainable and collaborative outcomes aligned with the City of Franklin's core mission. We maintain the safety and cohesiveness regarding the infrastructure for both staff and guests regarding all city facilities. Some of the items that we did complete this year were some fire station enhancement. We completed Fire Station 4's locker room project by getting rid of the camp showers and creating full-size showers. Reworking of the tipping shed slab, which was really needed, and thank you for letting us do that, because that transfer station, that was a big project. We did a couple of big projects out there. I think we spent about $500,000 out there this year.
The floor, just the floor was $500,000.
Yeah, just the floor was $500,000.
Trash is expensive business.
Trash is expensive. Miscellaneous roofing projects throughout the city. Some added ventilation over at Public Works, and we're preparing to replace the security gates as you drive into the parking garage at PD. So I think we should have material starting to be delivered the end of this month, and they're saying the first of the month to start replacing those gates. I started to invite Kevin Faley down here today because I know y'all haven't met him. You may know him. Kevin is now kind of the man, a lead supervisor for the facilities department after Jim retired in December. So we've asked Jim if he was going to come back a little bit part-time, and he actually said, if you don't need me, I'm good right where I'm at. So I think Jim's trying to get his garage cleaned out. I'm sure he's not home watching us on TV right now. But we're in the process of working to try to hire another employee. Nothing is changing based on our organizational chart. We're just down a couple with the move of Kevin and the retirement of Jim. But we're leaving, so we are leaving the quantities the way we are. We have the ability to hire 2. We're going to try to hire 1 and see how that works with us for a while. Base budget, in my notes at the bottom, I did say there was a 10% change, but it's almost, 7.2% decrease. We've just been able to kind of watch some items that we have coming up what we feel like the next budget year, so we're able to cut some costs. Kind of looked at some numbers that we have been dealing with in the past and was able to lower those numbers. Everything is high, though, as you well know. It costs money to keep some of our old structures going. Some of our buildings are getting older. PD is now going on 15 years. Station 6, I think, is now going, one of the finer looking stations is going on close to 20 years. So we've got some stuff that's coming up. There's some things out there that with Christine and Michael and Eric, we've discussed that we see coming forth with some decent repairs to these areas. So it'll be something that'll be coming down the road. Going to go right into my enhancements, unless there's any questions. I mean, I'm sure you've got all kinds. Okay, all right. My number 1 right now is 2nd Avenue parking garage. We get a lot of rainfall, and when it rains, it pours inside the parking garage. So we've got some weatherproofing of the control joints and areas like that we're looking to take out and reseal the joints. We have that included. That's about, but we're also looking, I think Christine is looking at, we've talked about a grant. There's some grant money that's out there for that work. We're thinking that project could be anywhere between $58,000 and $75,000 to do everything that we want to do to get it sealed up a little bit better on the inside. But with that also, are you going to speak to the?
I may just make a comment. We're preparing actually a presentation for the Mayor and Alderman work session coming up very soon, actually. As this is something that will be eligible for the Direct American Rescue Plan dollars, of which the city received $9.2 million, and there's no match requirement with that. There are categories of what's eligible to be used with that money, and one area is to help industries that were affected by the pandemic period, which it's noted as hospitality and tourism, and the role that our city parking garages play in promoting tourism and hospitality in downtown Franklin. We certainly believe that these funds would be eligible to, as Brad was describing, the waterproofing will extend the life of those garages. Right now, if you see all the water that's coming down, surely that's impacting the structure and how long that garage will be in use. So dealing with that water would be able to continue the service that garage provides. The counting system has already proven to be a hit. However, the enhancements are needed to make the counts correct on the top floors of both of the garages. They, as you know, they don't have tops to them; they're open, and we've tried to do some things to keep vehicles from swinging out and not being counted, but that has not worked. And so, enhancements would allow us to be able to accurately count those top floors, so that certainly the little lights above all the spaces, the red, the Christmas colors that we have on our garages, we've heard lots of folks really enjoy seeing those and showing where the open spots are, but having the system be able to accurately count at the time that you enter the garage or decide to bypass if you find out that it's truly full, instead of the case that we have now when we are full and the counts aren't quite what they need to be on the top. So those would be eligible for use of American Rescue Plan dollars, and they could be done this calendar year because that would fit within the requirements of the grant. So we did ask Brad to talk about it from the facility standpoint today, but you'll be seeing that very shortly from staff on the funding side.
Thank you, Christine. The last couple here are Station 5, getting rid of the last, what I'll consider the camp shower locker rooms. Station 5, we're looking at replacing or remodeling the men's and women's locker room over there for a cost of about $35,000. City of Franklin, Station 5 kitchen remodel. They're hanging on the walls, but we're looking to possibly look to remodel those as well. We've done stations 1, 3, and 4 so far. We're in the process of finishing number 4 right now in the kitchen. Station 5, we need to replace a roof. We've got some storm damage from over the years, and she's just miscellaneous. She just wore out. That's a cost of roughly $240,000 for a new EPDM roof membrane system on that. Doesn't really include any of the cost of wet or damaged insulation. Until we get up there, we don't know what's underneath the membrane, so that would be an extra cost. Station 6, mentioned Station 6. We need to consider, if not this budget year, or at least be planning down the road to look to replace the roof at Station 6. Starting to leak a little bit more. We've got some waterproofing issues over there that I'm just going to go ahead and fix them, where it's leaking in due to the stone walls that the developer, I think, had requested that to be put on that building when it was built. So we're dealing with some water intrusion around the real stone that's on that building, up on the parapet walls. And then I've mentioned, one of the things I did mention that we really haven't got into yet is I think we've got some settlement starting to work in over there at Station 6. We've got a couple of decent-sized cracks that I'm working with structural engineers on that, and a couple of other projects around the city that we're going to get some structural engineers involved. So nothing that is really in there, but it's just kind of letting you folks know what else we're looking at in regards to city facilities. So, any questions? Okay.
No questions? When did we do Station 6? 20, what,
07?
07?
06? Right before I got here.
Yeah.
I remember touring it when I was a candidate for the city administrator job here.
It says 08, early 08,
Yeah, early
late 07, early
I was
08.
like, that's a
She
nice
knew right
price.
where to go on my document that I didn't even realize I'd written. So 08,
Opened in 08.
open in
Okay.
08. So. Is that Station 5? Yep, Station 5
Yes,
being
sir.
23 years old.
The roof that Brad placed as higher priority is 23 years old right
Yep.
now.
That's an original.
That's an original roof. And Station 6 is original roof. So. Good? Thank
Yeah,
y'all.
I'm
Good to
just-
see y'all.
Brad.
Yeah, I was just thinking, the developer wanted to do the rock and we allowed that at his cost.
Thank y'all.
Thanks. So our next item is to cover a group that we missed in our presentation of the administration group, governance and management group last week, and it's our human resources team. So we have Kevin Townsell with us, and Kevin and some of his team members. So come on up.
Well, thank you, everybody, for your time here today. I'm Kevin Townsell, the director of the department, and I brought with me three of my direct reports. The two others I think you know very well, Melody and Leah, at the front desk. I'd like them to introduce themselves to you.
I'm Delaney Childress, HR manager.
Sarah Silvas, Risk and Benefits Manager.
Jamie Ewald, Organizational Development Specialist.
They do excellent work. We're a team of 14 over there in HR. I'm just going to go through our deck right now. You know the purpose of the department. It's number one, be the cheerleader for the city of Franklin, and that's what we want to do is support all the team members that work here. So what we have to do is we have to recruit them, hire them, onboard them, take care of their benefits. That's administering the city's pension plan, defined benefits, defined contribution plan, and TCRS plans. Creating and implementing the HR manual, rules and regulations. We have to train city employees on OSHA regulations, civil treatments, and other topics. We procure and administer all property and casualty insurance, including the city's self-insurance workers' comp program. Manage the safety program for all employees, managing employee benefits, conducting workplace investigations. All right, there's our organizational chart. As you see, I referenced the fact that we have 5 direct reports, Melody and Leah, admin assistants, and then, of course, these 3. Under the HR manager, who's sitting right next to me, we have the 2 generalists and the employee relations specialist. That's someone who was the employee relations specialist is someone who was a police officer in Atlanta, and then he went to the city of Franklin, and we have him here as our employee relations specialist. Does an excellent job, as well as our other 2 generalists that report to Delaney. Then on the risk and benefits side, we have a lot of experience over there as well. We've got an occupational health and safety trainer, a risk management specialist, a benefits supervisor who's been with the city several years. How many years would you say? 23. Wow.
23.
And of course, Sarah, you've been here quite a few years as well. How many years for you?
Over 17.
So we have a lot of expertise over there. Reporting up to Tracy is a benefits analyst and also a benefits generalist. So that's the team we have. We're fully staffed right now. All right, so the base budget, it's not much different. Represents a 1.3% increase over last year. As you'll see in the notes, the biggest change was operations. A lot of this is attributed solely, a lot of it's attributed to increased cost of a lot of the programs that we handle. The higher use of tuition, that's a great thing, but our tuition reimbursement program is being utilized quite well. Plus, we have additional training programs and such. Fortunately, we do have, as Michael addressed earlier, our personnel budget represents a decrease due to the plan he was talking about earlier with, the funds. No need to go back over it, or you want to?
This particular case, personnel is dropping at the moment based upon our estimates and benefit elections. So the deduct actually for the interfund reimbursement is all throughout all departments that have them is under operations. So that's offsetting that increase of 17%. And that's simply done because we had to put it somewhere, and rather than doing 2 accounting exercises, we just put it all for the department in operations, which is why, in many of these departments, operations is a negative.
Thanks, Michael, for clarifying that. All right, so we do have 2 program enhancement requests. One's a certificate of insurance tracking system. No, we don't do it manually now, but yeah, that would be quite a task. But still, a system we've had it for quite some time. It's not as robust as we need it to be. We've got to be able to track when insurances fall off. We've got to be able to track if is it the appropriate level of insurance. And we've found some sources that we think we can really add to us doing tracking certificates of insurance much better. So that's the one program enhancement request. The other one is our recruiting budget. It used to be you post it, they will come. That's not the case anymore. Not for the top talent that we want. So we do need to be more intentional, and we want to participate more online now. It's just not good enough to put it on the City of Franklin's website. The other sources like LinkedIn is where we need to go. So that's why we have 2 program enhancements. In summary, this is our brag page, and we could have had several pages. So I had to keep it down to just this. We want to go. We recruited last year. We recruited. Let me say it more smoothly. We increased our hiring by 75%. We upgraded Kronos to the new platform, UKG Dimensions. We completed a citywide job description review. That meant every single job description, analyzing it, sending it back to the supervisors, and in a lot of cases the employees, making sure it was appropriate. Sarah's team making sure that the ADA language was up to date with how ADA language needs to be applied these days. We continue with that, and of course use our outside consultant to help us have our compensation and classification plan where we want it to be to attract the top talent that we want. We, as you know, for 2020 and 2021, we were the COVID department. We're not that anymore, but we still have to keep up with other things in terms of the flu shots, our annual health and wellness fair, the lunch and learns, the hold it for the holidays, hold your weight for the holidays, and such. We're in our 3rd year with the Nearsight Clinic, which is a great resource to our employees as they're out of pocket for each visit at the Nearsight Clinic. It's $20. We continued with the Management Fellow Program and continue hiring graduate students to come and join the team. We like to recognize our employees. Again, this HR, it's more, sure, we've got the side that has to investigate and discipline and on rare occasions terminate, but that's the bulk of what we do is uplift employees. As I said, be the cheerleader, Public Service Recognition Week, the Benefits Day, food truck events, employee Halloween party, the employee holiday breakfast. That's what we spend a lot of our time on. And with the addition of Jamie, we were able to have a city employee-wide survey that was followed with team talks, or actually, it was the start of it, had team talks talking to all the different, I'd say all the employees, but we definitely had about 20 sessions where we would start early in the morning or in the middle of the day or even late in the hours to make sure we hit the different shifts. That's something that we did in HR this year, and it was a very successful year for us. And then, again, we're going back to having we've already started with our civil treatment classes, putting that back in place, and we're going to continue with our supervisory and employee training. That's HR. Any questions?
One quick highlight on the employee engagement survey. We had over 90% of our team members take the survey. The average or the target that the public sector groups that take this same survey is at about 65%. So that was a great thing to see. We're proud that so many people took time to speak into it and help us get information from them. We're still getting the information, so we need time to process it, but it'll be really helpful to just gauge what our employees need, what are we doing well, what can we improve on, and work from there. But it was awesome that so many people participated and took time to share that feedback with us.
Sarah, back a few months ago, I guess it was a few weeks, probably a month or so, you made a statement that, how many retirees did we have last calendar year?
I believe we were up to 7.
7 retirees?
Yes, and then the formula, we changed the formula, so as of January 1, we now have 3 on the books
Okay.
that are coming.
So how many people did we hire in calendar year 2022? Do you know? Do you remember?
I don't know
Do you have
the
any idea?
the hiring.
I'm not sure about calendar year, but
Okay, we'll do-
fiscal year
do
22,
fiscal
we,
year.
we hired 122 new employees, fiscal year 22, and we had 68 internal promotions.
122 new hires?
You'll recall during the height of the pandemic, 2020, we didn't hire.
Right.
So when people left, we just worked harder. So once we were able to hire again, we had to get ourselves out of a hole.
Thank you. That was from the Pension and Trust Committee, and that's the reason we made the changes that we made in that committee to go to a monthly rather than a yearly average. And so somebody could retire and count 3 or 4 months or 4 or 5 months rather than backing up to December the 30th and losing whatever time they had worked in that particular year then, right?
Exactly right. The employees are very excited about that. I think Sarah already told you that 3 people have already retired that would have thought they had worked to the end of the year. And as much as we love them, if they would like to retire earlier, they should retire earlier. And we're glad we offer that benefit now.
Well, we're reaching out to Mike back there, you know, so, yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
is there a certificate, you've struck in chord with the certificate of insurance. So have we ever looked at like outsourcing that? And, because this looks like an expense, but it can save the city a lot of money if we're doing this right. And I think that's important for everyone to know is that just by doing this better can save us a lot of money come
Yes.
claim time. And
Yes.
I don't know, there's outsourcing, things and because I know it's also a lot of work to review
yes.
all the certificates. So
Yes.
an interesting just thought.
Honestly, I've not looked at the outsourcing piece of it. We probably would get there in the upcoming years. We currently have a vendor that we use, and we were, at the time, so frantic to get something besides just paper and scanning it in, that we kind of went to like a state contract to see, like a vendor that we could just kind of get in there and, get our feet wet. And it's just like Kevin said, it's not doing what we wanted to do. There's so many departments that utilize them, like parks and engineering and Brian and purchasing, that we need it to do more. So we need like agents to be able to log in and put things in electronically, and then that system will read it. And then all of them are stored in one spot. So if we ever have to produce one for a project, then it's in one spot. So I wanted to put this in there because I want to be able to not just go to a state contract, but do an actual process, an RFP process, so I can, put in there what I'm looking for.
It may just be a $15,000 expense, but the impact to our budget could be millions if it's not right.
Yes, correct. Yes, and our
And the
current
worst thing
our
happening.
current annual cost is $8,500, and so $15,000 is just kind of a maximum guess. I don't think it'll be that much.
Any other questions or comments? Anyone? We thank you.
Thank you.
So what else do we, that's it, isn't it? We marked that off. All right, so the other business then would be a motion to adjourn.
And one quick reminder, your next meeting is March 2nd, so we're on a different schedule in March to make everything work. So you meet
Aye.
the 2nd at 3 o'clock, the 8th at 3 o'clock.
Which
and
is a
then
Wednesday.
Yeah, a Wednesday. And
The
then the
8th is a Wednesday.
31st, your first meeting in April is pushed into the last day of March. So March 30th, sorry. 30th. So that helps us get things in and give you some time to process and give us feedback in April. So we've made that work and also avoid spring break week as well.
Then, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Proper motion and second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed to the adjournment? I see Mike. He-
That's great.
He's ready to adjourn.
He's still smiling.
Yeah.
4:30, right on 4:30.
Y'all have that?